So anyway, continuing on, the difference between real life activities of banking, financing, funding, just dealing with the money that we have, the Federal Reserve notes, and the game of Monopoly, is that every time you start a new game, every player gets a certain quantity amount. Not in the real life. In the real life, somebody, somewhere, has to borrow money to bring it into an existence. And when they pay off the loan, after borrowing it, that money is extinguished away. So it reduces the supply. And the biggest borrower, of course, is the federal U.S. government, as far as our domestic spending is concerned. Internationally, it connects in ways that fundamentally the big bankers of the world handle it. And it's all dealing with pieces, fragments of various and sundry other countries that are into this system of printing the money out for the people to use and for trade in between nations. Anyway, the Federal Reserve notes, FRNs, in attempting to stay above water and avoid bankruptcy, this is, by definition, a de facto state of war between participants, both in the board game and the game of life. The only way to stay in the game of Monopoly and to avoid bankruptcy is to obtain more Monopoly money than other players. The only way to stay in the game of life and avoid bankruptcy is somehow to obtain more FRNs from the other players around you. In both, the outcome is inevitable, like what you're experiencing now, where nobody is really getting ahead, where everything seems to be crumbling away, where jobs aren't even paying enough to be sustainable anymore. The longest running game of Monopoly lasted 70 days, but still ended the same way, all others before and since, with one player acquiring all the wealth and all the other players bankrupt. Unfortunately, there can be no other final conclusion in the Federal Reserve note game of life either, no matter how long you stretch it out, unless, of course, you simply stop volunteering to play the game. The most devastating form of volunteering occurs when someone promises, and people do this unflinchingly every day, to be responsible for and pay the debt of another party. Believe it or not, this is how every unwary soul has sealed his fate. The trade name game. That is that which is the content of this book is dedicated to exposing. Yeah, this is part of a book that had been printed, apparently. Exposing, untangling, and rectifying it has an evil twin that works in concert with it. As you will discover toward the end of this article, the legal masters of the world are factually eminently aware of the distinction between your true name and a trade name, and have come up with an incredibly ingenious device for exploiting the difference without tipping their hand. It goes into dealing with the name that you establish for your driver's license, your birth certificate, that is set forth in all capital letters, as compared to that which is the King's English, where your first letter of each of your name, your first name, your middle name, your last name, is capitalized, and the rest are lowercase, which is truly the way your name should be establishing of what you would call yourself and what would have been given to you by your parents. Let's see. Later on it goes into, the same applies equally when either of the two names is called out verbally. Remember, differently constructed names comprise distinct items of property, however similar. Filing a UCC, that's Uniform Commercial Code, financing statement is the first step in releasing yourself from these bonds. The second is cessation of volunteering to be responsible for the trade name's obligations by signing on its behalf. This is the main point that I'm trying to elucidate for you that in getting into all of this. So I'm just going to jump here to dealing with the Article 3 of the Uniform Commercial Code. This deals with negotiable instruments. Has been written to augment the liabilities that come along with signing on behalf of another, but has also been encrypted to keep curious slaves from finding out how they're being duped, because the legal masters of the world cannot bind us into perpetual servitude without also offering a route for escape. We have a remedy, and it's in the Uniform Commercial Code. So when we unravel a mystery, the key point into Article 3 on the subject of signatures is this. The general rule is that a signature is an endorsement if the instrument does not indicate an unambiguous intent of the signer not to sign as an endorser. Okay, that seems rather complicated, and it is, but it's the very thing you're doing when you're doing it with your finger across a display module, and then going on into what it is that you're purchasing, and that sort of to do it over the email where you type it. Okay, you're not given this opportunity to be able to use the system in your favor. Instead, it's being used against you. Intent may be determined by words accompanying the signature, the place of signature, or other circumstances. UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, 3-204, Note 1, Paragraph 2, underline is... Oh, this is what the statement was from the Uniform Commercial Code. Sorry, I'm getting a little complicated here. What I said is the general rule is that a signature is an endorsement if the instrument does not indicate an unambiguous intent of the signer not to sign as an endorser. That's in, you would find that in the Uniform Commercial Code 3-204, Note 1, Paragraph 2. Just wanted to make that as clear as possible. Even without defining the key term endorser, the meaning is clear. In the absence of indicating an unambiguous intent, a signature can be construed as an endorsement. Endorser means a person who makes an endorsement, and that happens to be in UCC Code 3-204B. Excuse me. Endorsement means a signature other than that of a signer as maker, drawer, or acceptor. That alone or accompanied by other words is made of an instrument for the purpose of negotiating the instrument, restricting payment of the instrument, or incurring endorser's liability on the instrument. And of course, liability, that is the whole point of this particular video that I'm trying to make here. Makers, drawers, acceptors are the primary types of signers of negotiable instruments. So it defines maker means a person who signs as an identified or is identified in a note as a person undertaking to pay. It says that's in UCC 3-103 in parentheses 5. Drawer means a person who signs, and then, well, there's drawer and acceptor. Each one of these is in the Uniform Commercial Code, and I'll just move on here to, they talk about accommodation parties. An accommodation party is described in Note 1 under UCC 3-419, another portion. It's all Article 3, which again, negotiable instruments. An accommodation party is a person who signs an instrument to benefit the accommodated party and who is not a direct beneficiary of the value obtained. So you just sign your name, even on paper, without indicating just what this is. Courts, the people involved with legalese will interpret that, well, you're signing without benefit to yourself. It's that simple, and in a complicated way. Let's see. Oh, it talks about the trade name. I want to get into the final portion of this, and it's indicating here in the next page, and then the light at the end of the tunnel. And it says, now for the $64 question, how can you avoid ever being considered an accommodation party? Your signature ever being construed as an accommodation party? The answer is found in notes 1 and 2 of section 3-402. Again, that's all in the Uniform Commercial Code. You can find that in your Secretary of State. You'll find it on their website. Also, Uniform Commercial Code is very resident, but you have to deal with Washington, D.C., and it has to do with the IRS. So this is definitely within the places where lawyers can find it. These are places where you can find it as well, but your Secretary of State has a whole portion of Uniform Commercial Code. So you'd be able to look up UCC Code 3-402 and find the things that I'm going to be talking about now. So number 1, subsection A states that when the represented person is bound on an instrument, if the instrument is signed by a representative. Hold on here.